We're going to go ahead and get started with our presentations. We're going to start with a keynote from our Chief Digital Officer, Nikhil Deshpande. Good morning, Nikhil.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Yen. And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 6th year of GovTalks. As Calvin mentioned, GovTalks is dedicated to helping state agencies and elected officials create a top-notch web presence. We do our best to present and discuss topics, and each of our conferences focus on best practices for creating and managing user-centric digital experiences, be it for websites, be it for transactional applications, be it for chatbots, anything, as long as those are user-friendly, user-centric, because constituent service is our primary goal, and we help agencies achieve that. So today we will discuss the best practices and the importance of establishing digital metrics strategy. What does that mean for the ones who are not been working in creating metric strategies? We'll be happy to kind of walk you through and then later also work with you on creating one for your specific agencies. Digital metrics are really critical for measuring, analyzing, and reporting on the effectiveness of your digital properties, like your websites or your transactional applications. Every agency really should have a metrics strategy to measure performance, customer satisfaction, engagement levels, and use that data to make continuous improvements and serve your customers. So let's jump into that. I'm Nikhil Deshpande, and it's my honor to serve as the Chief Digital Officer and lead the Office of Digital Services within the Georgia Technology Authority. Our mission with the Digital Services team is to make people's interaction with states' digital properties user-friendly, fast, and frictionless. For the next 20 minutes or so, I will talk about the 4 topics listed here. We'll talk about GovHub, the state's new digital platform and content management system. I'm going to talk about specifically the performance measurements component of GovHub and why it is important for us to have a digital metrics strategy across our digital products. If you haven't picked up already, our performance measurement tool is Site Improve. We have piloted and tested and worked with Site Improve for the last 3 or 4 years in the capacity that we plan on using at an enterprise level. So we'll be introducing that tool to everybody, and I'll share how this tool can help content managers improve websites, but also create reports for leadership. Finally, we'll discuss what comes after we launch this tool and how can we work together in improving your websites. So let's start with GovHub. So as Calvin mentioned, GovHub is the state's official content management system. This is built using Drupal 8, and this content management system is a true collaboration between agencies. I cannot talk more about GovHub without thanking all the agencies who worked with us for the last 18 months, because what we have built is something that we have built together with you. You shared with us your challenges, your wish lists, your workflows, your bottlenecks, and you participated in every training and testing opportunity that we had to make sure that we were on the right path. So in 2019, when we launched GovHub and we moved 80 some sites on the new platform, we felt like we really were doing the right thing. And as we have launched for the last few months, the data has truly shown us. Essentially, what we took into consideration are all these roles and tasks that it takes for an agency to build and maintain a website to serve your constituents efficiently. Now, we realize not every agency needs to fill each of the role with a dedicated person or each of these functions based on what your goals are. And that's exactly where the whole idea of GovHub came in, as if we build this together in a centralized platform and offer it to 80 some websites and agencies, it only helps having this multi-tenant platform serving multiple agencies, which saves redundancy and enables efficiency. So over the period of last 10 months, our team, the Digital Services Georgia team, has worked relentlessly in making sure your content is migrated from your legacy website into this new system. I'm going to just briefly touch upon the value of what this system brings, because I feel like just jumping into the metrics part of content might not give you the entire picture without knowing what the system allows you in the first place. So GovHub really is something that Georgia, being one of the first states to build a centralized content management system centered around the whole concept of single source of truth. It has the potential to connect content across websites or other digital channels. Calvin just mentioned chatbots. We have done an Alexa pilot in the past. The idea is that any content management that happens today is not going to be restricted just to be presented on a website. With all the digital channels that are hitting us from all the sides across the landscape, we have to be ready with our messaging, our information, to make sure that that same message can be used across any channel. A quick rundown on what stacks up underneath the GovHub hood. We have built upon a very sturdy infrastructure. As Calvin mentioned, our uptime has been 100% for what we have been planning regardless of our traffic. We have a 99.98% uptime, and obviously the other piece of it is scheduled maintenance time. It's elastic, scalable, as Calvin mentioned, the spike due to the recent pandemic. The Department of Public Health, which normally used to get about 50,000 sessions a day, around late March or early April, started seeing an uptick of 5 million sessions a day. That's a huge amount of traffic for any system to be resilient and still sustain. That's uptick of 11,000%, as Calvin mentioned earlier. And we were happy that the system stayed strong, being hosted on an elastic scalable cloud environment, and also with across regional hosting, and security-wise, it's FISMA compliant. The next piece of it is the accessibility and the mobile first part that comes out of the box native in Drupal 8. It is Section 508 and WCAG 2.0 AA compliant. These are accessibility standards. And out of the box, every website is compliant to these standards. And through content management, it is up to agencies to make sure that agencies are compliant in their content management as well. But also it's mobile first. This recent pandemic, if it showed us anything, that more people are using mobile devices to check information. Our mobile traffic that used to be a little under 50% now is showing at 63%. So people have resorted to mobile devices either as a choice or that is their primary way of interacting with state information. But primarily, this platform also allows cross-device compatibility. So regardless of what kind of mobile phone or a tablet or a screen of different sizes, this platform is ready to serve. But it's also important to collect a variety of metrics, not just visits or views, because when we get the holistic picture, then we truly know how we are delivering content. And that really kind of boils down to how are we serving content. So we have created customized content data buckets. So for example, we work with agencies to understand what is the kind of content that we publish. So if it's events, if it's press releases, we have created those customized content types and then allowed agencies to put in the content, the data in a way it's structured. Not only it's understood by humans, but it's also understood by machines. And that brings us to the next level where this particular system is heavily tuned for search engine optimization. And search engine optimization is a topic in itself, and no one claims to know what the secret juice, that Google kind of resorts to. But the rule of the thumb is you do all the things right, and there's a good chance that Google or other search engines are gonna really start, finding you and showing you, bubbling your site up on the results. And that's exactly what we did, and we created a machine-friendly environment which is really tuned well for our sites to show up in Google searches. And the last piece, which is really important, is the web-based content management. Agencies one of the problems we've heard from other agencies is we rely on certain teams or there's a longer workflow. With GovHub, people who have access behind the scenes, they can manage the content instantly, and we're up and going whenever the content is ready to be published. The updates are instant. Now, each of these things, as I have been listing, we can see that we can measure and manage the outputs in the lower. Yes, there's a website, it has a certain availability, but truly the content management piece of it is something that we have to measure and manage what the outcomes are of your website, because it is not the same as just trying to see how many page views or unique visits we have. The outcomes are what is truly your website trying to do. And when we start looking at what are the measurement metrics, we can lay those out on a 2x2 digital metrics of the metrics being on one side and the efforts being on the other side. So the web performance metrics really tell you, right? So what your website or other digital services, how they're performing, how they're generally derived from certain tools that give you usage traffic. It gives you a certain level of site quality, performance, total visits. All of those can be divided between quantitative and qualitative metrics. But to able to get that, we either have to have automated efforts or manual efforts. And we cannot just rely on one of these quadrants. We need all of these. And having all of these metrics truly will paint the entire picture of, is your website truly working towards the goals that you have set for your website? So if we just look at what a quantitative automated metrics allows you to have, it's the web performance metrics, which just tells you, your visits, page views, how many unique visitors you have had, how many page views per visit you've had. Those are quantitative metrics, and those are something that a tool can help you create automatically. The qualitative metrics that you can also automate to a certain extent is the search. It's a really good indicator of a visitor behavior pattern and how easy it is for someone to find content on your website. Imagine a heavy use of an on-site search could mean that your visitors are either unable to find content or maybe they don't understand what is on the website, because we aim to write content at the middle school level, so it is understood by everybody. But one of the things that we can now measure for every website is what are the levels content is written for. And if we see a pretty high uptick in the search activity, that just could mean that the visitors really don't understand what's written, or it also could mean they don't want to read through the content because maybe it's a lot of content. So there are a lot of parameters, and this is the qualitative aspect of what that data can give us. In contrast, a low number of searches could also mean that content is readily available, complete, and your website's doing really well. It really depends what the other indicators also tell you. Another manual quantitative way you can gauge how well your website is doing is by conducting surveys. You can ask your users, was the information easy to understand? Was the information useful? This is the part where we can rely on the search data and maybe have some informed guesses. But in this case, we actually ask the users. And I'm very sure each of you have conducted surveys in the past. One of the things what I like about this tool that we are launching, it allows you to have surveys on your website in a way that is not very obstructive, but also if someone were to kind of give you feedback, there is a very easy way of capturing that. So we can gauge if the experience was satisfactory. The last quadrant, which is manual and qualitative and possibly needs the most effort, is the usability of your website. Now, usability, now more commonly referred to as UX or user experience, is really gauging how a person leaves your website with the image of being served or being frustrated or somewhere in between. How easy was it to interact with you? Digital metrics typically look at the general behaviors of groups. User experience is really important because it focuses on individual experiences and how they relate to a certain piece of your website or overall experience that is delivered of your website. The website user experience also focuses on how your visitors think information should be organized. For example, one of the ways that the search data tells us is people don't understand what they're reading, they will try to search for it. But when they search for it, they will use their vocabulary. They will use what they understand of your content. And that is precious data for us to then go back and inform our content. It could be anything. They could be looking for a tax form, they could be looking to renew their license, or they just could be looking for a phone number to maybe file a complaint or whatever it may be, but they have a very specific way of interacting and expecting content, and having that usability piece, that particular effort to make sure each of these pieces, the usability quadrant connects all the dots for the rest of the quadrants, and it is very important. What this particular tool does, and what excited us to add this tool to GovHub as an option, was to make sure that it raises certain questions that today can be answered. For example, we have a playbook that we will be sharing with everyone, and this playbook walks everyone through a certain set of key plays drawn from successful web practices. As you can see up here, at the strategic level, there are certain questions that every agency should be able to answer or should have a defined answer for this. What is the purpose of your website? What are the site goals? And these could be different from some of the other digital properties that you have within your agency. What are the challenges that you face in fulfilling these goals? What do you expect people to get out of your website? How do you know your website is successful? All the GovHub agencies, all the websites hosted on GovHub are configured with SiteImprove at this point. The way SiteImprove works is it gauges the different level of performances on your website. For example, there's a big part where it relies on quality assurance, search engine optimization, and accessibility. Towards the end of the day, Yen will share, of course, the details of how we can engage with agencies in making sure you all get access to your SiteImprove dashboards. But also after lunch, we have very specific dedicated sessions, as you saw on the agenda, for QA, SEO, and accessibility, where the Digital Services Georgia team will talk specifically about these three topics. What also comes with SiteImprove is a layer of analytics to tell you how these numbers are being captured or what these numbers inform you. There is a very refined level of heat mapping that is also available. There's so many tools within this particular SiteImprove addition to GovHub. It is really exciting for us to work with you to make sure that we help you and work together with your site goals and your essentially making your presence better for your constituents. So let's talk about exactly what is it that we are going to be aiming for. So SiteImprove that has their own way of scoring your performance. And the goal of today is that you walk away from this particular event understanding exactly what contributes towards your score. SiteImprove has their own way of presenting what they call as a digital certainty index, or we call it as a DCI score. It is calculated based on your website's performance across what we just saw, the categories: quality assurance, SEO, and accessibility. Each of these modules make up for 1/3 of the overall DCI score. The good part about SiteImprove is not only it will tell you what your scores are, but it will also tell you how to improve those scores, and not just theoretically, but it will also tell you exactly what are the pages that you need to address and what are the pages that are requiring your attention. And as you start fixing those pages, your score improves real time. I think it's a really transparent way of us working towards making our websites better, not just to get a better score, because as we make, for example, as we fix these accessibility issues, as we can see up here, automatically our usability gets better. There is no way that we can just focus on one little thing without affecting the overall impact of your website. You probably can see that there is a little circle on that rim of digital certainty index, quality assurance, accessibility, SEO. That particular circle for each of these scores is the average. It is the public sector average. So this score tells you how you're doing against an average, and the session right after this is going to get into the depth of exactly how these averages are calculated and how these scores are calculated. The goal for us, all the agencies set by our Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, is to meet a state average goal of a B, which is an 80 at this point. And once we will share your scores with you, you will get an idea of where you are, and then the digital services team is more than happy to help you achieve the score or even go beyond the score. But for now, for like the nearest horizon, this is something we should be aiming to meet or beat at this point as per the directives. Like I said, there is a current score waiting for all agencies, and Yen will be sharing details about signing up for trainings and accessing your score towards the end of the day. Please do make sure that you go through the playbook that we shared with you, because it is really important. It's a really good set of best practices put together, and if you just follow each of those, there's a good chance that you will have a really good start with trying to kind of meet or beat the score that we just looked at. With this, I'll just conclude my piece by reminding everyone the ways to engage with Digital Services Georgia. We support all of our agencies, so there is a ticketing system, and the URL is right underneath here, digitalservicesgeorgia.gov/support. So feel free to open a ticket if you have a question, if you have a query, if you want to engage with us. We are happy to work with you. But we also have continuous training opportunities that we offer. We have a digital academy for others educational activities, for example, best practices, content management workshops, which are not Drupal or tool-centric. And then we also have a digital center of excellence, which we work with agencies. So collaboratively, we work on identifying what are the best practices that we should all align to. And then eventually those best practices end up becoming either the state standard or a certain policy around it. We are big on collaboration, and we would love to hear from you. Yen, if I have any time left, I'm happy to take any questions.
Yes, thank you, Nikhil. We do have a question. Okay, great. So we had a question from our audience about the goals of their site, and they asked, should the goals of our site be the same as the goals or the purpose of our agency?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I would start the answer with any other diplomatic answer. It really depends on what the agency goals are and how much of those agency goals rely on the website. I guess it's very important to understand a website by itself is one of the channels of the agency that it serves the constituents. So if, for example, the agency's primary goal is to have an intake of, say, constituent concerns and complaints, then yes, there's a heavy reliance on the website. But if one of the primary goals of an agency is, for example, say policy making or law enforcement, then the website goal is truly to make sure that the information is delivered accordingly. So there's definitely this balance between how much a website plays the role. So it definitely needs to reflect on the agency role because it works towards the larger goal. But I guess the website truly needs to also understand the goals for the users, why they are actually coming to interact with the website or with the agency, and really be a combination of the agency goals and what the user expectations and the goals are.
Great. Thank you so much, Nikhil. So we had a second question from our audience. Remember, this is from someone who's not a GovHub customer, and they're wondering what are the next steps that they can take if they wanted to join or get site improved.
It would be great to have more agencies on GovHub so we can have a consistent way of calculating impact. We can engage with any agency in understanding, what their setup looks like. Websites can be small, large, and massive. So depending on what our intake looks like as well, we can work with any agency and figure out a way to onboard them. But it would be helpful to have a very consistent way of calculating impact. The fact that they will be on the same platform and the same tool that calculates their performance impact as well.
Fantastic.
So basically, absolutely, we welcome anyone who wants to join.
Yeah, we definitely look forward to hearing from y'all.